On the eve of the return of Toronto Raptors regular season basketball, it's easy to get excited about the future, but it's also necessary to look at the shortcomings of the team. So in today's video, we look at what is possibly the biggest weakness on the team that Masai Ujiri probably needs to fix. Let's get into it. Welcome NBA and Raptors fans. This is Amateur Sports, your source for everything Raptors. We do Raptors news, mock trades, breakdowns, and so much more. So if you like the Toronto Raptors and you enjoy content in this style, make sure you are subscribed to Amateur Sports for more videos just like this. We do at least 4 a week, and you could help us on a road to 7,000 subscribers. Almost there. Help us get there. But let's get down to the video for today. We are talking about the biggest weakness for the Toronto Raptors heading into the upcoming season. And this is a video that I've definitely been wanting to make for quite a while now, kind of waiting to see what it looked like in preseason, what it was kind of looking like before I made this video, because initially, based on the team that I saw, based on the roster that I saw going into Summer League, going into the preseason, I thought that the biggest weakness for this team was going to be shooting. I thought that we would have a lack of outside shooting, and I've talked about this on this channel before, that is going to be a problem for the Raptors in this upcoming season, but I don't feel as strongly about that as I used to. I used to feel like we didn't have enough true shooters on the team, but the addition of Svi Mykhailiuk has definitely eased a lot of my constraints there, plus the development of OG Anunoby as a three-point shooter, plus Precious Achiuwa all of a sudden knocking down threes. Khem Birch possibly developing that corner shot. I think that Scottie Barnes' jump shot is a lot further along than I initially anticipated. I mean, the way OG Anunoby's playing might just make up for it entirely based on the way he's shooting. Him on his own could make up for any sort of shortcomings that we have from the deep ball. But I don't feel like that anymore because of all of the things that I listed. So my focus turned to something else during preseason. And it's not like I was looking for something to not like about this team. It was very apparent from the first preseason game all the way until the final preseason game. Because the fact of the matter is the Toronto Raptors are constructing something new. They are trying to break the mold of the current NBA. The idea is that they are creating a positionless game where there are numerous players who can defend multiple positions and can play in multiple positions on offense as well. There are two-way players who are long, athletic. They've got the big wingspans. They're in between 6'7" and 6'9". That is what we are trying to create with this team, and I support that. I absolutely support what the Raptors are trying to do right now because it's interesting to see how it will pan out, and they're buying into this system and they're going to double and triple down on this system trying to work. But what this means is there are a lot of guys in that height frame from 6'7" to 6'9". In fact, 11 of the 17 players on the Toronto Raptors current roster heading into opening night are between 6'7" and 6'9", which leaves only 6 players who are not in that height frame. However, those 6 players are all under 6'7", all the way going down to 6'1". That means there are no players above 6'9" on this roster, and I think you can see where we're going to with the weakness here. The Toronto Raptors have shown a little bit of an inability to defend true bigs in the paint in preseason. Now, that is just preseason, and you see things like that, and you expect the team to sort of work out how to fix that as we head into the regular season. But I was hoping after the first game of the preseason, where we struggled in that endeavor, that by the end of preseason, we would have gotten to a point where that wasn't as much of an issue. But I didn't feel like there were any improvements made in that because Precious Achiuwa was getting the bulk of the minutes in the paint. Precious Achiuwa is like 6'8". He's not the biggest guy. He's a good rebounder. He uses his size well, but against a true big, he did kind of struggle when he was getting back down in the post. So much so that, well, let's take a look at the stats that bigs displayed against the Raptors over the course of this season. So starting with Andre Drummond. Andre Drummond in the first game was absolutely dominant. 19 points, 6 for 9 from the field. Wasn't quite as dominant in the second game. It still posed a nice stat line. Al Horford kind of ripped us up in the game against the Celtics with 16 points, 6 for 9 from the field. Christian Wood, this one's a little bit nitpicky. I felt like Houston kind of struggled entirely, but Christian Wood had 13 points and 6 for 12 shooting. Alperen Şengün also had 10 points, even though he was a bit of a mess on the defensive end. And finally, Daniel Gafford really went to town on the Raptors with 14 points on 6 for 11 shooting. So In all of the games, you could say those are a little bit like the averages that the players have. So it's not like the worst thing in the world. But for Drummond to do that in the first game, and for Horford at his age now to do that in the third game, and Gafford to look as dominant as he did, especially in the first quarter against the Raptors, I feel like there is possibly a problem here. And the Raptors, the biggest, I think, problem with this is there's nobody to combat that from happening. Obviously, certain games, the bigs are going to do fine. Certain games, Achua, Kem Birch, they're going to do fine. And admittedly, Kem Birch wasn't available for a lot of the preseason. He's probably going to be key on defense for those true bigs. But I felt like last season, even with the struggles we had in the center position, we did fare well against true bigs. I think that Joel Embiid typically struggled against the Raptors. His points may not have shown it, but his field goal percentages were quite horrendous in many of the games against the Raptors. I also felt like against Nikola Jokic, we did a pretty good job, and those are the two that you're going to be most concerned about. But I think more of that comes down to the schematics of the Raptors not letting the star beat them. They are going to do everything they can to make a role player beat them. If they go down to a role player having a great night, then they're going to do that. They are not going to let the star beat them if they can prevent that from happening. So I think that was kind of what was going on with Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic. But as far as Embiid, Aaron Baines was typically his primary defender last season, and we know how much he struggled on defense. But I felt even he did a solid job there because we had him. There was the ability to go to a true big in the paint. But for the Raptors this season, if Andre Drummond is having an explosive 10-point first quarter, and we've got Precious Achiuwa and Kem Birch who aren't really preventing that, there's no plan B. There's no one we can go to on the bench who's 6'10" and up to defend those players. And that's what makes me a little bit nervous because, I really do support this positionless game. I really do support it. I wasn't very happy during the offseason when we didn't pick up somebody like Rashawn Holmes. But then, when it came down to it, I understood what was going on. I understand what we're trying to build here. Believe me, I completely understand this. But I feel like it would be good to have that option to go to something like that when it is necessary in the game. The Raptors don't really have that. Chris Boucher can get blocks, but even he is a little bit height restricted when you're talking about like a true center like the Joel Embiid. Obviously, Joel Embiid is like that superstar level, so he's going to get his points no matter what. But for somebody like Andre Drummond, but for somebody like Daniel Gafford to do us like that in preseason, I think there needs to be preventative measures taking place, which kind of leads me to say that possibly Goran Dragic might need to get traded a little bit sooner than expected, because as far as what we can trade on this team, I think that the common consensus is obviously Goran Dragic needs to get traded, but I think that Chris Boucher on an expiring contract, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to move him throughout the season, because right now his value is very high, and I think he's going to sign a pretty good contract at the end of the season, so trading him at the deadline to a contender, get some young assets in return, might be worthwhile. A team that would be in love with taking a guy like Chris Boucher is the Brooklyn Nets, who could have a stretch five in Boucher. They don't really need all of that height because there's so much talent in the team. Chris Boucher would offer that outside shooting on offense and the ability to kind of play in the paint on defense. So Chris Boucher to Brooklyn, we get somebody like Nick Claxton. That's a true big who can be on the bench and he has a role with his team and he's very young. So something like that. Or you can send, the Dallas Mavericks. They're still interested in Goran Dragic, and, Moses Brown is still definitely on my mind. He's available to get traded now. I don't know if that's really realistic to happen if the Dallas Mavericks are interested in trading him, but something like that. I think that we do need to address this weakness because going into the season, I was fearful for our shooting, but offensively, I think we have enough talent there. Our defense, because we have such good rotations, I think that we do need to fix this sort of thing. It's not going to be prominent on every night. I don't think that it's like a huge weakness that like, oh my God, fix it right now. I don't think it's one of those, code blue type of events. But I do think that over the course of the first 10 regular season games, we are going to see maybe a bit of a leaking faucet in the paint just because, I love Precious Achiuwa. I think he's such a talented player and I think that he plays well above his size, but seeing him in preseason just struggling with those matchups and through no fault of his own, he's kind of built like a power forward, having to play as a center, and that's going to be fine against a lot of NBA teams who are also doing that. But it was evident to me that, especially Andre Drummond, who is nowhere near what he used to be, when he's backing down somebody in the paint, and there are going to be many others in the league who do this, when he's backing you down in the paint, it was a little bit difficult to manage that. So as we head into the season, I would like Masai Ujiri to sort of address this endeavor. We just got rid of Freddie Gillespie, so we don't have a plethora of bigs to rotate in. Chris Boucher is here, of course. I see him more as a power forward this year. So as far as centers go, I think we're looking at Kem Birch, and I think we're looking at Precious Achiuwa. Can Chris Boucher fill in a role there? Absolutely. But I don't think any of them are equipped for like a 7'1" big to come into town and stomp all over us in the paint. So I listed a couple of good options there. I think those are ones that we should consider. I really don't think that we are going to go that route unless we absolutely have to. And again, I can understand that, and I can understand any sort of decision that Masai Ujiri, Nick Nurse, Bob Webster made, because they know so much more about basketball than I do. But what I'm conveying to you, the viewer who watches me, is that I am a little bit concerned about the way the bigs kind of beat up on us in the preseason, and I feel like that does need addressing. I don't want to go into the first 10 games with, again, the worries of centers beating us up. I also felt like maybe there was a bit too many threes getting knocked down against us, and, when that's just, you can't just say every game, oh, they just shot lights out against us. Well, why is that happening so consistently? So that's another little thing, but the big thing for me is that I would like to get a true big just to have the ability to go to him on the bench. I would like the ability to just sub one in. I get that we're fully invested in this position, this game, but why not have a plan B when it is absolutely necessary? It feels like all of our marbles are in the same basket here, and I would kind of like to have that extra little bit of security off the bench. Hopefully Masai Ujiri can address that, but regardless, whatever his decision is, I am so excited for a great season. Tomorrow, we're going to break down what to expect from the Raptors this season, so stay tuned with Amateur Sports. But let me know your thoughts and opinions on this. Do you think we need to add a suitable big to our bench, or are you content with the 6'8", 6'9" guys that we have playing in the center position? So that's a wrap from me from today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a like if you did enjoy. I mean, if you're still here at the end of the video, you clearly did enjoy. And also subscribe to Amateur Sports. We're on a road to 7,000 subscribers, and you get 4 videos a week at least on this channel to keep you entertained for everything Raptors. Next to me right now, the other channels we have, Amateur TV on the top right of your screen, our vlog channel where I do live game reactions and lots of other fun stuff there. Go check it out. A bit of a personal vibe for myself. And bottom right of the screen is the Amateur Clips channel, the best clips from our Twitch streams, including post-game shows for every single Raptors game. We'll see you again next time for another video.